Hey guys, today we're going to be comparing two bikes that you would never think to compare. Like, just look at them. We got the 2006 Yamaha YZF R6 50th anniversary, and then we got this Royal Enfield Classic 500. So you may say, why are you comparing these two bikes? Well, it's important to compare two bikes, although they're different, because you can see the benefits of each type of category of the motorcycle. So we're going to come over here and look at the R6 first off. And so we can see just general build off of this bike. It's track focused. It doesn't really have multiple capabilities other than just being able to dominate at the track. Where we have this Royal Enfield that I see more as a weekend cruiser. You may go on some short rides with it. Mostly, really, I would say it's a bike just meant to sit in your garage just to look at. If you look at it, it's a beautiful bike. It's got that vintage, almost like World War II look. And later in this video, we're going to look at some of the performance differences, price differences, and what type of person would buy each of these bikes and what these bikes are made for. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so we're going to look at some of the performance numbers on this R6. So comparing these two bikes, you can probably tell visually there's going to be a stark difference in the performance numbers. So with a little bit of research, this bike makes around 126 horsepower and makes around 45 foot-pounds of torque. So pretty good horsepower numbers, not a bunch of torque, but that's pretty typical for these super sport type bikes. If we compare that to the Royal Enfield, what we're going to see over here is it's pretty insane, because that makes around 126 horsepower. This makes only 26 horsepower. And this bike weighs about 400 pounds, and that one probably weighs 370 around there. So we're getting 100 more horsepower out of that R6. I think that's pretty crazy. If you look at the engine, it's a 500cc displacement engine on this Royal Enfield, but it's going to be a single cylinder. So just a completely different engine, the way it creates power, delivers power. They call it a thumper engine. Very interesting characteristics, enjoyable to ride, makes some great sounds while riding. While in comparison to the R6, what we're going to see is, if you look down here, we got the inline 4 engine. As you can see, all of the 4 outlets coming out of the engine. So inline 4 making, like I said, 126 horsepower, 600 cc's of displacement. So it's pretty crazy how just 100 cc's of displacement and a different type of engine can produce so much more. Alright guys, now that we got some performance numbers out of the way between these two bikes, these bikes both have the factory exhaust system on there. So come over here and let's see what these bikes sound like. So let's start up this R6. Got a nice titanium exhaust, give it a few revs. Alright, there's the R6. Pretty quiet, honestly, for such a powerful bike. This bike's pretty loud. This one's crazy. Let's see. Make sure we're in neutral. So as you can see, these bikes make quite different exhaust notes. It's kind of interesting just to see how two bikes with similar displacement create such different exhaust notes. But yeah, so that's the exhaust sound for those two bikes. We'll get on with the pricing next. Alright guys, next we're going to be looking at the pricing from when they're brand new. So we're going to look at this 2006 R6. When this guy was in the dealership floor, he went for around $10,000, which is pretty crazy because we bought this bike for $4,900 out the door, so we feel like we got a pretty good deal. And then with this Royal Enfield, my dad bought this brand new, and it's pretty surprising. I don't know about the value of this bike. I think he paid around $6,000, and I just don't see that value there unless you're just a die-hard Royal Enfield fan. So that's the price differences between these two bikes. Next, we're going to look at riding position. Alright guys, so we're going to look at what the riding position is like on this R6. So as you can see, right as you're about to swing your leg over, you immediately realize, oh my gosh, those bars are really far down. So those clip-ons are pretty aggressive. We got a really high seat height. I think it's one of the highest seat heights in the 600cc class. The rear sets are pretty far back, so when you're in position, you know, you can get into a really good speed tuck. You're constantly leaned over. You got to make sure you squeeze the tank with your knees to relieve pressure off your wrist. So as you can see, this bike, it's going to be tough to put on a bunch of miles on, but we'll see later in this channel. Try to do a couple road trips with this bike. So let's compare this position with that of the Royal Enfield. When me and my dad rode a couple days ago, going from the R6 to this, it was kind of like, oh, thank gosh, because you're just sitting in such a neutral position, your feet right in front of you, as you can see, and your back is upright, hands right in front of you. So this bike's going to be good for those longer rides, but the only thing that the R6 is going to really have on it is the power delivery is much smoother, and then also just the engine's more capable of sustained speeds, while this seems to struggle a little. But I would say riding position, comfort-wise, the Royal Enfield's definitely got the R6. Okay, this part of the video is honestly my favorite because I get to talk about what these bikes do 0 to 60 and in the quarter mile. So let's start off with the R6. These are numbers you'd probably expect. 0 to 60 in a claimed 3 seconds flat. That's pretty crazy. You're gonna be hanging with pretty much any supercar. And a quarter mile in high 10 seconds, about 10.7. So this bike is wicked fast. You're gonna be able to hang with whatever car you want to. But what's really interesting and embarrassing about the Royal Enfield, I just looked up some numbers. This thing does 0 to 60 in the time this does a quarter mile. It takes like 10.7 seconds to get up to 60 on this bike, and it takes 18 seconds to do a quarter mile. That's pretty crazy. Alright guys, that was a quick comparison of these two bikes. Hopefully you guys learned something new about the R6 and the Royal Enfield. I know they're two very different bikes, but it's interesting to contrast them. So hope you guys enjoyed it and really enjoyed that fact about how slow this bike is and how fast this bike is. If you guys want to see more comparisons, comment down below, more videos. I'll see you guys next time.